What happens when love is sincere, but met with cruelty? Diem, a young woman full of heart, bakes handmade pastries as a gesture of love and respect for Toan's mother. But instead of gratitude, she faces harsh rejection and heartbreaking humiliation. Crushed pastries, cruel words, and a slammed door leave Diem standing in the rain, wounded but not broken. Will she ever be able to forgive such deep disrespect? This emotional story explores the strength of love, the sting of prejudice, and the courage to walk away with dignity. Backhand index pointing right. Don't forget to subscribe for more moving love stories like this. Let's dive in. The sky had only just cleared after a long stretch of rain, and the morning sun painted a warm hue across the small kitchen where Diem stood, her sleeves rolled up and flour dusting her apron like snowfall. Today wasn't just any ordinary day, it was a day she had been quietly preparing for all week. She wanted to make something special. Not for herself, not even for Toan, but for the woman who raised him, his mother. Despite the harsh words Diem had heard from others about the older woman's cold demeanor and difficult temper, Diem believed that love could melt even the iciest hearts. She didn't have much, but what she had was sincerity. And so, she poured it into what she did best, baking. Diem selected each ingredient with care. The eggs were fresh from the morning market, the butter rich and creamy, and the vanilla extract imported from a distant land, something she had been saving for a special occasion. She measured every grain of sugar with precision, kneaded the dough until it was silky smooth, and shaped the pastries with gentle hands, like an artist perfecting her masterpiece. As the oven filled the room with the comforting scent of butter and sweetness, Diem couldn't help but smile softly. Her thoughts drifted to Toan, his laughter, his unwavering support, the way his eyes lit up whenever they talked about their future. She wanted so badly for his mother to see that her love wasn't a passing emotion. It was deep, patient, and genuine. By noon, the pastries were packed neatly in a cream-colored box tied with a crimson ribbon. Diem added a small note in her neat handwriting, handmade with love. "I hope you enjoy them, BAC." She rehearsed her greeting in the mirror, adjusted her hair, and set out toward Toan's family home, her heart fluttering with both hope and fear. The walk to the house felt longer than usual. Each step was a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She imagined how the older woman might react, perhaps surprised, perhaps even moved. Maybe she would smile, maybe even invite Diem in for tea. That single image was enough to keep Diem's spirits high as she approached the grand gate. When she rang the bell, a housekeeper opened the door, then quickly disappeared. Moments later, Toan's mother stepped out. She looked just as regal and composed as Diem had remembered, dignified in appearance, with eyes sharp enough to pierce through intentions. Diem took a small breath and stepped forward, holding out the box with both hands, her smile nervous but sincere. "Ciao ciao BAC, she began softly. "I made these for you. I hope you'll try them." For a moment, there was silence. Then came a slow, deliberate gaze from the woman, her lips pressing into a thin line. Diem's hands trembled ever so slightly, still holding the box, as she awaited a response that never came. Instead, the woman narrowed her eyes. And just like that, everything Diem had poured her heart into, all the hope, all the love, hung in the air, waiting to be either received or rejected. The silence stretched on like a taut wire between them, fragile and ready to snap. Diem's smile began to fade, her arms still extended, the neatly wrapped box of pastries trembling slightly in her hands. She could feel the weight of the older woman's gaze, not curious or thankful, but cold and scrutinizing, like an invisible wall rising between them. Then, without warning, Toan's mother spoke, her voice low and sharp, each word laced with disdain. "Do you really think a box of sweets will change anything?" Diem blinked, stunned. I didn't mean it that way. I just wanted to." "Save it," the woman interrupted, her eyes narrowing. "You think I don't see what this is? A desperate little act to win my approval so you can sink your claws deeper into my son." The words hit Diem like slaps to the face. She stood frozen, the blood rushing from her cheeks. The ribbon box between them now felt like a foolish offering at a cruel altar. "I don't need your pathetic gestures," the woman continued, stepping forward. And before Diem could react, she swept her arm across the box with a sharp motion. The package flew from Diem's hands, crashing to the ground with a dull thud. The lid popped open, and the once beautiful pastries tumbled onto the stone path, crushed, broken, smeared with cream and jam. It was as if Diem's heart had shattered with them. A gasp escaped her lips, her eyes wide with disbelief. She knelt instinctively, her fingers fumbling to gather the ruined treats, even as tears blurred her vision. But the woman didn't stop. "You are not welcome here," she spat. "And you will stay away from Toan. I won't let some gold-digging girl use my son's kindness as a ladder. I've seen your type before, sweet smiles, tearful eyes, always playing the victim." Diem stood slowly, her hands now sticky with the mess of crushed pastries. She didn't try to wipe them. She looked directly into the woman's face, her voice trembling but clear. "I'm not here to use Toan. I love him. Truly. I've never taken a single thing from him except his time, his laughter, his heart. That's all I've ever wanted." The woman sneered. "Love?" She laughed bitterly. "You barely know the meaning of the word. If you had any dignity, you'd walk away and never come back." Diem's chest tightened painfully, as if her lungs were being squeezed by invisible hands. This wasn't just rejection, it was humiliation, weaponized and cruel. Her love had been twisted into something vile in this woman's eyes, and no matter what she said, it would never be enough. But she wouldn't beg. She wouldn't plead for acceptance where there was none to give. Drawing in a shaky breath, Diem bent down once more, not to save the pastries, but to pick up the note she had written, now stained with jam and dirt. She folded it gently, then stood tall, her voice soft and broken. "I'm sorry, BAC. Not for loving Toan, but for believing that maybe you could one day care about someone who cares for him." With that, she turned and walked away, her back straight despite the burning in her chest. Each step away from that house felt heavier than the last, her shoes echoing against the stone path like farewell chimes. Behind her, the crumbled pastries remained silent witnesses to a love misunderstood. Rain began to fall again, light at first, then steadier, like the sky was weeping the tears Diem refused to let fall. She didn't look back. The raindrops grew heavier, blurring the edges of Diem's vision, though they couldn't mask the tears now freely sliding down her cheeks. Her steps quickened, the soft patter of her heels against the wet pavement echoing like a quiet retreat from a battlefield. She clutched the folded note tightly in her hand, the ink already smudging beneath the moisture. Behind her, the gate to Toan's house closed with a final, hollow clang, like a judgment passed, like a door she might never open again. But what had she done to deserve such cruelty? Diem had faced hardship before it, loneliness, financial struggle, and doubt. But never had she been so deeply wounded by words that twisted love into manipulation, kindness into schemes. The woman she had tried to respect, to reach out to, had reduced her love into something dirty, disposable, shameful. A flash of lightning lit up the gray sky, and Diem ducked beneath a canopy of trees, her breath coming in short, uneven gasps. She leaned against the trunk of an old oak, her body trembling, not from the cold, but from the storm raging inside her. Anger, hurt, confusion, and worst of all, humiliation. Her thoughts spiraled. Should I have stayed quiet? Should I have tried harder? Should I have fought back? But no answer came. Only the sound of thunder and the aching silence of rejection. And yet, through the pain, something else stirred inside her. Something quieter but stronger. A voice, small at first, whispering against the weight of shame. You were honest. You were kind. You gave your heart. And that is never something to be ashamed of. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, smearing a bit of jam unknowingly across her cheek. The absurdity of it all almost made her laugh. She had come with pastries and peace, and left with heartbreak and mud on her shoes. But still, she had told the truth. And even if the woman refused to see her love as real, Diem knew what lived in her own heart. The question echoed in her mind now, clearer than ever. Could she forgive her? Could she forgive a woman who had shattered her effort, insulted her character, and thrown away the very symbol of her love? Part of her wanted to say no. To turn her back forever and let pride seal the wound shut. But another part wounded, yes, but not broken, knew that holding on to hatred would only give that rejection more power. She didn't want to carry the weight of someone else's bitterness. No, forgiveness wouldn't come easily. Not now. Maybe not for a long time. But Diem knew one thing for certain: she wouldn't let that encounter define her. Nor would she let it poison her love for Toan, which had always been pure, free from calculation, free from gain. As the rain began to slow, Diem stepped out from beneath the tree and walked on, slower this time, calmer. Her heart still ached, but her chin was lifted. She wasn't weak for crying. She wasn't foolish for loving. And she wasn't less worthy just because one person had refused to see her worth. What happened next, whether Toan would believe her, whether his mother would ever open her heart, was out of her hands. But Diem had nothing to hide. She had given her best. And that, in the end, was enough. Above her, a break formed in the clouds, letting through a fragile shaft of sunlight. Diem looked up, her lips curving, not into a full smile, but something close. A promise to herself. No matter what came next, she would love with courage. Even if it meant walking through storms alone.